Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are strapping in for a really intense urban journey. We're navigating the deep historical layers hidden right under the shiny surface of one of Taipei's most dynamic districts, Zhongshan.
It is the perfect place for this kind of investigation because Zhongshan, it's not just a commercial hub with international hotels and the famous Tong nightlife.
No, not at all.
It is the core, the absolute core, where power, commerce, and culture have constantly, and I mean often violently, intersected for over a century. If you want to understand modern Taipei, you really have to get the planning that went into this place.
Absolutely. And I think the place to start, geographically, is Zhongshan North Road itself. It gets called Taipei's Champs-Élysées, but that's a bit misleading, isn't it?
It is. The road wasn't originally about luxury shopping. It was a line of command.
A line of command.
Precisely. Its origins go right back to the Japanese colonial era. It was meticulously planned, built as the ceremonial imperial envoy street. The picture, a dead straight line running from Taipei Station north all the way to the massive Taiwan Shrine.
Which is where the Grand Hotel is today.
Exactly. This was pure geopolitical display. Every time some high-ranking official arrived, this was the path. It physically dictated the route to ensure they saw nothing but this intended display of, colonial authority and order.
And that strategic importance is what makes the whole district so compelling. Because after World War II, the road's purpose shifts. But that strategic function, it doesn't just vanish.
Not at all. It just becomes the new international gateway.
A new front door.
Exactly. And starting in the 1960s, you see this area just completely morphing. It starts catering heavily to U.S. military personnel, and then later, that huge influx of Japanese tourists.
So the whole corridor just fills up with airlines, hotels, travel agencies, and of course that really vibrant, maybe slightly notorious nightlife in the alleys.
And that's the birth of the modern Teotong culture we know.
So what we have is a location designed to display colonial power, then repurposed to showcase post-war economic ambition, all while these incredibly old pockets of memory and, I guess, resistance are still there.
That's our mission today. We're going to pull on 5 specific threads, 5 stories that reveal how this landscape was planned, rewritten, and still somehow defended by this tenacious local spirit.
Let's start on that main artery then, Zhongshan North Road, and treat it like that display wall you mentioned.
Our first story is about a piece of history that really, against all odds, managed to survive everything, every single regime change. It's the Lin田Barrel Shop.
Oh, this is such a great story. It's just sheer human grit. Founded in 1928, this shop is more than just old. It's a genuine living fossil. I mean, think about what it's seen.
Japanese nobles, heads of state, celebrities, and yet the shop itself, it remains basically unchanged. It's the ultimate static measurement of the city's change.
And it witnessed the whole cycle of Taipei's urban metabolism.
Well, think about the infrastructure alone. The shop was right there when Taipei's first elevated bridge, the Fuxing Bridge, opened in 1955. It was a huge symbol of forward-thinking development.
And this is where the city's appetite for modernization just gets brutal. 40 years later in 1995, the shop is still there.
Still there.
And it's watching the city tear that exact same bridge down. 40 years. I mean, what does that tell you about Taipei's self-image? That they'd build, celebrate, and then just dismantle major infrastructure that quickly.
It signals this constant, almost aggressive need for the next thing, the next phase of progress, often without ever looking back. That barrel shop owner watching the entire life of a bridge from his doorstep, that's a unique perspective on the city's priorities.
It really is.
And if you're ever in that area, you have to notice this detail. The shop's internal space still looks exactly the way it did when U.S. President Eisenhower passed by in 1960.
That's a phenomenal detail. You have the rush of new luxury cars outside, and then you step inside, and you're in 1960, looking at these traditional wooden barrels. Its survival is this quiet victory, not just of inertia, but of the owner's sheer stubborn perseverance.
Okay, so moving from that quiet traditional resistance, we get the absolute opposite impulse. The aggressive ambition of the 1960s.
Right. Our second story, the pride of post-war modernity, the Chia Hsin Building.
Completed in 1967, and this was a conscious statement by Taiwan to the world.
It was designed by the architect Chang Xiaokan, right?
Yeah.
A Chinese national, but trained in the Bauhaus system.
The very same. So they weren't just building a functional office. They were importing global, streamlined modernism.
And that modernism, it wasn't just aesthetic, it was functional.
It was. It was designed to combat the subtropical climate. The groundbreaking thing wasn't its height, it was the climate control. The Chia Hsin Building was Taiwan's first commercial high-rise in Taipei to have central air conditioning.
Now, that might sound like a technical detail, but explain why that was so profound in 1960s Asia.
Well, in that climate, Central EC was an extremely expensive, technologically confident investment. It signaled reliability, efficiency. By installing it, Taiwan was sending a clear message to international trade partners saying, we are technologically sound, we are reliable, we operate at a global standard.
So it was a critical symbol of global competitiveness.
Absolutely. And it cemented that whole section of Zhongshan Road as this globally competitive corridor sitting right near the Grand Formosa Regent Hotel, which had opened just a few years earlier.
The whole area just became this showcase of American luxury and Asian ambition.
And if you are doing a little architectural tour, you can see the end result of all this international involvement nearby at Spot Taipei.
Oh, right, the old U.S. ambassador's residence.
Exactly. Seeing that elegant white building now transformed into a garden restaurant and an art cinema, that might be the most tangible symbol of how that power dynamic shifted. Diplomatic capital became cultural capital.
Spot Taipei is a crucial piece of the puzzle, really. Okay, let's shift from commerce and diplomacy to culture. Specifically, the culture that was systematically displaced by these huge geopolitical shifts.
Yes, and this brings us to a much more tragic story. The ancient Jiantan Temple. This is where we see systemic trauma.
The name itself, Jiantan, means sword pond. It comes from that powerful legend of Koxinga, Zheng Chenggong, throwing a sword in the water to settle a sea monster.
Right, and that myth just imbued the area with this deep historical and spiritual significance. The temple itself was a cornerstone of the Taipei Basin, dating way back. It wasn't just some structure. It was situated on Jiantan Mountain with perfect geomancy.
Mountain behind it, river in front. Immense spiritual power.
And that spiritual power became a political liability for the colonial regime. So between 1937 and 1940, the Japanese government forced it to relocate.
And this wasn't just urban renewal.
No, this was strategic. The colonial authorities needed to expand the grounds of the Taiwan Shrine and clear the view for the new Taiwan Protectorate Shrine.
So it was a systematic land clearing designed to eliminate a rival spiritual authority.
Exactly. They were deliberately suppressing indigenous religious memory to establish a pure, unblemished colonial symbol in its place. It was a textbook case of political power just invading a space of faith.
So the temple was moved to where it is now, on Bayan Road, and they did preserve some incredible old stone steels and pillars.
They did, but here's the thing. Those pieces, they aren't symbols of continuity. They are physical, painful reminders of cultural sacrifice, of the temple being totally severed from its original legend and the very landscape that gave it its name.
The displacement is the story.
It is. I'd encourage anyone to visit the current site, look at those preserved pieces, and then, to get the full contrast, head up the hill to the Jiannan Butterfly Garden. That view, looking down over modern Taipei, it makes the trauma of the temple's forced move feel so much more poignant.
So if Jiantan Temple is a story of displacement, our fourth story is one of incredible cultural resilience right in the middle of chaos.
Right. This takes us into the Tiaotong area, famous for its nightlife that just exploded in the 60s, serving the U.S. military and Japanese tourists.
A space of intense commercial pleasure.
Total hedonism. But right in the middle of it, the Tsai Jui-yueh Dance Research Institute, the Rose Landmark, took root.
And Tsai Jui-yueh is a foundational figure in Taiwan's modern dance. So you have this serious indigenous modern art thriving in the exact same spot known for commercial indulgence.
It creates this incredible cultural countertension against the energy of the area, and her perseverance is legendary. The Institute survived not only development pressure, which is relentless, but it also survived a devastating fire.
And that refusal to be silenced eventually led to it becoming a historical landmark.
Which is basically Taipei recognizing and celebrating that magnificent resilience.
So a great thing to do would be to visit the Rose Landmark, learn about that history, and then immediately just walk through those Tiaotong alleys. You'll see the preserved Japanese-era houses right next to modern bars. It's a perfect illustration of that complexity.
Which brings us to our final segment, where we can highlight the quiet heroes of Zhongshan District, these academic and natural oases that act as buffer zones.
We've talked so much about aggressive development, so these final spots are essential points of stillness. First is the Zhisheng Memorial Hall. It's this beautiful, historic, private residence tucked away inside the Tatung University campus.
Its location is everything. Because it was absorbed and protected by the academic system, it's become a static historical fragment, insulated from all that commercial pressure nearby. The university's bureaucracy gave it a layer of protection.
A true space for reflection. And matching that stillness is the Jiannan Butterfly Garden, that huge ecological conservation park on the mountain slope, literally overlooking the urban sprawl.
And if we connect these two, the academic retreat and the ecological park, we get this idea of buffer zone value. They aren't just pretty places, they're vital. They provide necessary room for historical preservation and natural reflection.
So after all this, what does it mean? We've seen resilience, modernization, displacement, resistance, and preservation.
It reveals that the district's narrative is defined by tension. The conflict is always between rapid change, like the Fuxing Bridge demolition or the Jiantan Temple's forced move, and the tenacious survival of human identity.
It's the human stories that give it that depth. The craftsmanship of the Lin田barrel shop, the cultural regeneration of the Rose landmark, they act as this beautiful, silent resistance to the frantic speed of change.
I think the crucial takeaway is just the need for vigilance. The story of Jiantan Temple is such a visceral reminder of what happens when cultural memory is sacrificed for short-term political or economic goals. You're not just moving stones, you're cutting a spiritual anchor for an entire community.
The Zhongshan district really teaches us that a city's complete story isn't just in the shiny new towers that were built. It's found most deeply, I think, in the things that were sacrificed and maybe even more powerfully in the cultural elements that simply refuse to be silenced.
So we'll leave you with this thought. When you look around your own city, what cultural memories are showing that kind of quiet, magnificent resilience? And are you paying close enough attention to protect them?